Good morning. Today we are installing underfloor heating, and what we have is we've got already prepared substrate, so insulation boards has already been put in by the client. The room is just over 4 square meters, and for this we've got the foil. It's a silver backed foil just like this one, 4 meters linear length. So we're going to put 4 separate lines here on this floor. Before we do anything, we always start with testing. So before you unroll it, so when it's nice and new, coming straight from the box, the most important is to verify these readings. They are crucial. So 300 watt mat, that's fine. And resistance, 176.3 of an ohm. So this is between live and neutral. And we need to verify that because that's done by a manufacturer back in a production line, and here we are in a real life. We want to confirm that the mat hasn't been damaged, and you want to do that before it goes on the floor. Then a tiles or carpet's gonna go on top of it, because then it's gonna be super expensive to put this right. And trust me, because I've been called 20 times this year to fix the underfloor heating, which has been damaged by other people. So resistance on my test meter. Firstly, we need to make sure that the leads are nulled or zeroed, as people say. So lead to lead, 15, that might be better, 13. So now we know the resistance of the cables has been taken away, and on one side, one on the other, good contact, 173. So that's even lower resistance to what's on 176. I take always photo evidence of this because that's my pure evidence. The mat is still okay as I'm putting it in. So, but I do a second test, insulation resistance. If the cable has been directly damaged, like in insulation or matting anywhere, very important. You need to make sure that you twist both live and neutral together. You change to insulation resistance test, clip on both conductors to the earth screen, just like that, because that screen just carries all around the cable, protecting it. And we're going to run it at 250 volts to start with. We're looking for a high number. Perfect. We're going to change it to 500 volts. Beautiful. Now we know the mat is undamaged and we can actually start working on this mat. So once the mat is verified before you start work, you will have to verify after you finish, because you're going to be working with mat. You need to cut the mat into sizes, put it on the floor. Also very important is in the box you will have a thermostat. It could be different brands, all sorts of thermostat, but that thermostat has to come with floor probe. So this probe is usually installed within one of the conduit, so just for the protection of the probe. And actually afterwards you can replace the probe easily. It doesn't matter if you have a tiles or if you have carpet, whatever. If you use one of those corrugated conduit and you slide the probe in, you're able to replace the probe at any time. Because imagine if that probe is under the floor, all you have to do is just pull in and pull out, and that's it. That's about half a meter already in it. All you will have to do is just pull out and push new one in, if that's the case. So here we go. Always use a conduit. I'll show you how to do that. That aside, for now, we don't need this at the moment. Firstly, the matting goes in, and we will worry about that in a moment. And placement of the mat and a starting point is always very important, because you need to have a point of where you start. We're going to use the socket, and client asked me to install this in a trunking. So we need to use the right size depth of the box. For this one, we use a 47 because the isolation switch is going to go at the back. Then we'll come off the socket, that one. Isolation switch to the right-hand side of the socket. Then trunking to the right, we will put the thermostat about 145 from the floor. So it's nice and convenient for operation and programming. That's now aside. It is always important to check if the floor is clean from debris and so on. Sweep the floor, but I can see that the floor has been nice and clean. It's been prepped up for us, so that's good. If you're dealing with a carpet gripper, just like in this case, there will be an element whichever where you're coming down from the wall, you may need to cut a portion of that gripper because we don't want to damage any of our cables. That's very important, that's crucial part. Okie dokie, so let's start. In this situation, we've got a socket which is sunk in, chased into the wall quite further back. As you can see, there's a bit about centimeter or more. So we will attempt to drill the hole here. I've already marked where I'm drilling for my wall plugs. So I can choose any of those 4 or however. But if I'm running my cable that way, I'm gonna go for this one and that one. I will drill here at the angle and knock one of those knockouts to find myself in here. Am I gonna do this now? Do all of my work with the trunking and everything. I'll hoover this up and maybe at that point I'll start putting the mat so it will be nice and clean and I don't have to then work with concrete debris on my matting. So what I've got is, I've got the SDS, I've got my fixings, I've got everything I need to do this. So firstly, I'm going to drill the holes for where the wall plugs are going to go. For this, I've got my hoover and I'm using like one of those tags so I can just power it up whenever I need. Just as you've seen, when I start drilling on that side, it's got like empty pockets of plaster somewhere there. It's just come to one side. That's why I've already marked all the other positions. But now, drilling for the back entry for those cables. So we already know that my circuit goes like this. Back entry, just like so. And I'm using one of those pattress boxes that are quite flexible because they don't tend to break when you work with them. It's so much easier to work with them as well. Bit more expensive, but definitely lasts longer. So at that point I can just mark. Need to get the angle and find myself exactly on that knockout, which is right there. Here we go. That's what I am. Just there. That was perfect. That's it. That's what I got. Let's clean the plaster. The new socket should be covering all of it. Grommets are important because they keep your cables safe from the sharp edges of that metal box. I'm gonna put one in here, one in there, and another one here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to drill just like so. Here we go. The trunking that we're using is 36 by 25. So that's absolutely plenty for my cable to go out. And what we're using on this installation is flex. 1.5 flex as we are fusing it down. So it's just easier to work with flex on this occasion. Easier to terminate into the thermostat. Fixing time.